Today is Tuesday, Parashat Vayigash. Beginning of the parasha of this week, Yehuda, one of the brothers, one of the tribes, Yehuda, comes forward and makes an incredibly eloquent plea on behalf of his brother Binyamin. Yehuda is the tribe from which King David came, and from which there is the dynasty of the Davidic dynasty, and from him will come Mashiach. What was so special about Yehuda that he merited that aspect of leadership, of kingship? Let's remember that it was Yehuda who came up with the idea to sell Yosef, his brother, as a slave. That's a very low thing to do. But in the parasha of this week, we see an example of a person who did teshuvah, who repented. When Yosef wants to hold back Binyamin because he had his cup put in his bag and Binyamin, quote unquote, was caught, and now Yosef wants to take Binyamin from his brothers and to let the other brothers leave. What does Yehuda do? We see really an example of a person who's done a full teshuvah. He could have just said, okay, it's not our fault. Binyamin was caught. But Yehuda offers himself to be a slave to Yosef instead of Binyamin. And here we see a complete 180 degrees turnaround. A person who sold his brother, who's willing to sell himself to protect his younger brother, not knowing that that viceroy in front of him was actually Yosef. That is an example of Chozer B'Teshuvah. And when a person does teshuvah, our sages tell us that in a certain way, even higher level than a righteous person. Yosef, he's called Yosef HaTzadik, but Yehuda here is an example of a person who did teshuvah. He was the one that sold his brother Yosef. Now he's repented. He's gone total teshuvah, that he's willing to put himself on the line. That's real leadership, and that really merits him to become the king from whom the kings of Am Yisrael will come. But there is more to it. Yehuda, which is the name that is given to the Jewish people today, we're called Yehudim, connected to the tribe of Yehuda. The word Yehuda comes from a verb in Hebrew, which is lehodot, which is to be thankful. Now that's something that we're it's part of our nature as Jewish people, to be thankful to Hashem. That's how his name was given, because his mother felt that she got more than what she deserved, and she was thankful for having a fourth child. His mother Leah felt that maybe each one of Leah and Rachel, Rivka, and Rachel and Bilhah and Zilpah, each would have 3 children, 3 boys. When she had a fourth child, she felt she got more than she deserved, so she was thankful to Hashem. That's how she gave him the name Yehuda. But there is more to it. Yehuda has to do also in Hebrew with the word leitvadot, to admit fault. There's an episode in last week's parasha when Yehuda admits fault regarding the story with Tamar. He could have totally pretended that he knew nothing and that he was not at fault. But when he realized the circumstances of how Tamar became pregnant and realized that he was from him, he said, Tzadeka mimeni. He admitted fault. She's right. It's from me. And admitting fault takes strength of character. That is the type of qualities that a king should have, to be able to admit fault when he's at fault. And that's one of the qualities of Yehuda. And in this parasha, he comes forth to Yosef. Beautiful speech that he did at the beginning of the parasha, but let us remember that he merited to have the kings come out from him because of these 3 aspects. Number 1, he was a person who did teshuvah. He realized that he did wrong, and as a totally corrected his ways. He really showed it by example, just like Maimonides said. How do you know that somebody made a complete teshuvah? when he's in some similar circumstances to what he was in before, and he doesn't act the same way as he did. That was the example with Yehuda, Binyamin, and Yosef. And then the qualities of being thankful and also the quality of admitting fault when a person is at fault are great qualities to have. That's some of the great character traits of Yehuda, one of the tribes of Yaakov. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.